Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting, Wednesday, 8:30 a.m., August 27th at City Hall Council Chambers. And this time, as we always do, to celebrate our country and our God, I'll ask Councilwoman Jane Coker to give us the invocation, and then we'll do the pledge. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, we come before you with humble hearts, seeking your wisdom. Grant us patience, Lord, patience with others, with circumstances, and with ourselves. Help us to quiet the noise and to follow you with a trusting spirit. Guide us to see not what we want or think is urgent, but what truly matters in your eyes. Align our hearts with your will, not our own. Show us what you have called us to do, not what the world applauds, not what feeds our pride, but what brings glory to you and furthers your kingdom. Lord, show us the right path and remind us that your designs are higher than our individual plans. Give us the courage to release control and have the faith to follow you, even when the path is unclear. Let us all walk in your purpose and lead us step by step. We ask all this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
The first item on the agenda this morning is a presentation by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Welcome. Come forward. You ready? Yep. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Michelle Rudishauser. I am the FDOT project manager for the Bradenton Palmetto Connector. We appreciate the City Council's time this morning to be able to present our latest study update on the Bradenton Palmetto Connector. Again, my name is Michelle Rudishauser. I also have our team here, Gail Woods, who is the consultant project manager, and then Imran Ghani, who is one of our sub-consultants who will present some of our traffic. So just to provide a brief overview, on the agenda here, we're going to give just a very high-level overview of the project, our study status, the results of our traffic, our developing conceptual alternatives, and then just some conclusions and next steps. One thing that I do want to note or mention is that there's a lot of detail and time that we've taken over the last 4 months or so since we met with you all last. Given the time constraints that we have, we're going to go through this kind of high level. We will share this presentation with you all, and we just ask that after we share it, you take a look at it, digest it, and then we're happy to come back and meet individually if that makes sense to go over it in more detail. So just brief overview on where we started and where we are now. The graphic on the left is the 10 alternatives that we analyzed during the alternative corridor evaluation phase. That was a planning level, high level phase to try to figure out where a corridor would be best suited. Not what that corridor would look like necessarily, but where it could be best suited to go. After that analysis, we narrowed the corridors down to 3. Corridor A, which is the US 301-41 corridor that shares DeSoto Bridge, Corridor B, which is sort of in the middle there, and then Corridor D as in dog that goes to the far east. So in terms of a project status, we started our PD&E study in January of this year, but the ACER was finally approved in May 29th, 2025 by FDOT Central Office. However, we did start our traffic analysis in January. So we're complete with our traffic analysis. We did a 2045 regional planning model. We did some origin and destination analysis to really tell us where the traffic is coming from and going to. We looked at over 20 potential alternatives of different iterations along Corridor A, Corridor B, and Corridor D to see what could potentially work, what wouldn't work, what the traffic looks like with a variety of different iterations. And Imran will go over that in a moment. We also looked at some conceptual plans for Corridor A specifically, which is that 301-41 DeSoto Bridge corridor. We looked at 6 lanes, 8 lanes, 10 lanes. We looked at elevated options on Corridor A. So our focus does continue to be how can we maximize existing facilities, but as you will see, there is demand is greater than the existing capacity. So we do really need to figure out what the solution is, and getting input from you all will really help with that. And then lastly, we do plan to go to a public workshop in early 2026. Imran?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
The foundation of
If you could just state your name for the record.
Thank you. Imran Ghani, Osiris 9 Consulting, sub-consultant to FDOT. As I was mentioning, the foundation of any good PD&E study is understanding of the traffic patterns. So I'm going to talk about our data collection effort, the origin destination studies, the alternatives that we analyzed, and then our forecasting. We're using the most recent traffic data that was collected on this project. In fact, our traffic counts were collected 3 months ago in May 2025. And what they show is the traffic. This is traffic collected over a 24-hour period. The blue line is the northbound traffic, the red line is the southbound traffic, and then green is the total traffic. The point I simply wanted to make is what we noticed is in the morning, the peak direction is southbound, and in the afternoon, the peak direction is northbound. And that's true for all 3 bridges, even I-75, US 41, and Business 41. Another thing that we did was we looked at the previous study, the Central Manatee Network Analysis, and they identified that 31% of the traffic was through traffic. And that was based on a 2014 origin and destination study. So one of the things we did was we updated the data based on 2024 traffic. And the second thing we did is the definition of a through traffic is, what's a trip that starts from outside the study area and ends outside the study area. So we actually met with both the city of Bradenton and Palmetto and asked them to define what they consider a local traffic and a through traffic. In the shaded area, the colored areas is what they define was the study area. And based on that, we update our analysis, and it now shows that 47% of the traffic is through traffic. The next step was to actually not only look at overall traffic, but to focus on each of the bridges and look at where the traffic is coming from and where it's going. So if you look at northbound DeSoto Bridge, what you're seeing is numbers that show on the top percentage and the bottom show the actual volume. So this is how the traffic gets to the bridges. And as you can see, most of the traffic is coming from 41 and 301. And then where is the traffic going? And not surprisingly, 45% of the traffic actually goes north through the study area, headed towards US 19 and 41. We did the same thing for southbound traffic. Where is the traffic coming from, and then where is it going? And it's very similar. A lot of traffic is coming from outside the study area and then heading south on US 41 and 301. Our major need for the project is based on population. As Michelle mentioned, the population of Manatee County in the 2020 census was 399,000. And it's projected to increase by almost 200,000 in the next 25 years. So we have more demand than we have capacity. So for our alternatives, we looked at adding lanes to existing bridges and the new corridors. So in this graphic, there were 3 locations that we looked at adding new lanes: Corridor A, Corridor B, and Corridor D. And we looked at multiple alternatives. The first one we looked at was no build, which is if we do nothing. What happens if we don't make any improvements? So we keep US 41 at 4-lane. We looked at a 6-lane alternative. So this is, you add 2 lanes at the existing US 41 and the DeSoto Bridge. One of the challenges in adding lanes on an arterial is the arterials serve 2 functions. They serve long-distance traffic, but they also serve local traffic. And that local traffic generally means that there are dryways and signalized intersections. And if you look at where US 41 and 301 merge, before they get to the bridge, there are 4 signalized intersections. And the reason I bring this up is those intersections lower the capacity of the roadway. So one of the things we did was we also looked at other areas and how they're handling this similar problem. And the second picture is an elevated alternative that was done in Gandy Boulevard in Tampa. And the benefit of doing an elevated overpass or elevated roadway is it bypasses all the intersections. So you're not having to stop at those intersections. So it provides a higher capacity. The disadvantage is that it costs more to do that than simply adding lanes at ground level. But for traffic analysis purposes.
Can you go back to that picture
Sure.
first, please? So is that an elevated thoroughfare with a single lane going north and a single lane going south?
Correct.
Because I think when all this came up before, all people saw was your grandfather's flyover that was so wide and bulky that took churches, historic buildings down. With a single lane like that, it probably wouldn't need as much right-of-way and the other things. So that's something I wanted to get that out there, that it's a single lane and it's getting the 40% of the traffic off. Yeah, and I think that's where the angst comes when people see something and they don't understand the whole concept of it.
Understood. Michelle Rudishauser. We're just showing this graphic as just a representation of
Right.
what was going on in Tampa. As Imran will go through the iterations that he looked at, a single lane in each direction is not one that we looked at. You'll see in a second when he goes to the next slides. But you are correct that the previous study, the Central Manatee Network's Alternatives Analysis, which is a mouthful, said it showed a really wide typical section for that elevated option. So we're going to show some options here that aren't as wide, but I just wanted to make it clear that this is just an example and we're
Right.
not looking at a
Well, I
single
think, and I'm for, and I've been here since day one when this started 10 years ago and have sat at the churches in the different areas. And there was so much misinformation out there. And because people take the part of it that they want and then spin it. So we just want to get all of the information out. I believe our council will probably have some constructive criticism because we've been directed at times, because I've sat through them all and all the issues is, these aren't decision-making points now. When it comes to when DOT gives that decision point of what they think is the best one, then we get together and try to be unified as a community. County Commission, City of Bradenton, and City of Palmetto. But if you start doing too much now, it hurts the process. Let the process go through then. Now, we can tell you, and I believe I would like that today from our council, to tell you possibly some concerns of certain areas. There was a lot of concerns when it was 10.
Yep.
Now, it's less amount of concerns, but it's very concerning to the different avenues of the 3. So that's where we need to be, at this point, supportive of the process while still maybe giving DOT some of the things we're hearing, because the goal is for us not to make a decision yet until we see what the final decision is and then go down from there.
Yes, sir. And you'll see that we're at that point. And when we get to the end, you'll see that we're at that point of needing feedback from both the City of Bradenton, Manatee County, and the City of Palmetto to help FDOT make a decision that serves the community. Because at the end of the day, like we have talked about from the very beginning of FDOT's goal, is we want to provide a project that serves your community, because you all are going to be the ones that are going to be using it. And so as Imran goes through, and certainly when we get to the end, you'll see that that's
Well,
the
2 things
place
to
we're
that. As we say, and I say it, it's not your grandfather's flyover. It's the new styles that don't take as much space with technology and all that. And also, it's not our grandfather's DOT that said we're doing this no matter what.
Yep.
They want input, but because of legal regulations and all that, we can give you the input. We just don't want to be making a lot of hard decisions right now until we know what the final
Understood.
processes are.
Yep, thank you, we
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Imran Ghani back. So for the elevated options, we did look at, widening the DeSoto and US 41 to 6, but then providing a 2-lane overpass. And again, this is done strictly from a traffic point of view. What's the demand? How much traffic do we need to carry? We also looked at a 4-lane option. And then we moved to different locations. So all of these are at Corridor A. Right now, I haven't talked about anything at Corridor B and Corridor D. So the next step was, okay, let's keep US 41 at 4 lanes and look at a new bridge crossing at Corridor B, and that will be at 6 lane. And we also looked at a new location at Corridor D, which is also 6 lanes. We also did look one more modification. Perhaps, we should be focusing first on the US 41, look at widening that to 6, but then keeping the locations at B and D instead of 6 to 4 lanes. So those were the alternatives that were analyzed as part of this study. There were bunch of different variations. And this is a high-level results of that. First thing we focused on is how much traffic does the DeSoto Bridge carry, and then how much traffic does the other bridge carry. The next column is the volume over capacity. This is how much demand there is and how much capacity there is. And I'll just quickly mention that if you do nothing, you are extremely over, the demand is way over capacity. And as you make these continuous improvements, different type of improvements, it starts to drop down to closer to 1.0, which is where you want to be. The other thing that we did was we looked at not just one roadway, but how well does the whole area perform. So we used a metric called vehicle hours traveled that looks at the total delay of the area. So perhaps you make improvements, one road does really better, but has a negative impact on other roads. So this actually looks at the total vehicles hours traveled, and the 3 alternatives that really perform well are the 6 lane plus 2, the elevated lane option. Of course, it provides that extra capacity. It doesn't have to stop at any of the signalized intersections. And the 2 alternatives that we looked at, Corridor D, part of the reasoning behind that is there are a lot of people who have to travel east-west to go north-south. So when you put a bridge almost halfway in between the DeSoto Bridge and I-75, some of that, east-west traffic doesn't have to travel. And with that, I will turn it over to Gail.
Thank you.
Good morning, Gail Woods with Trans Systems. We're going to go over some of the conceptual concepts that we've developed for this project, and Corridor A is the US 301-41 corridor. All these corridors start at 70 and end at the 1941 split. So in looking at this, of course, if we go and add an additional lane and a shared use path, you're taking strip takes all along 301. But we have a constrained area, and that's between the hospital and the ARIA apartments. So what you see on the screen now is our 6-lane section next to the hospital and ARIA apartments, and you can see the impacts that we have in this area. The red is the new right-of-way that will be established. We also looked at the 8-lane, and it's even more impactful. That first building in front of the ARIA apartments is impacted by this. And again, you have the typical section in the lower left that show 4 lanes in each direction. So we move on to the elevated section. So again, as Imran mentioned, the elevated lanes are up higher. You have 3 lanes in each direction so that the impacts are less. As you come up with the elevated section in the middle, you bring around the at-grade lanes to tie into the bridge. So I want to be clear, the bridge is going to be, all the lanes will be on the bridge, the elevated section as well as the 6 lanes, 3 lanes in each direction along 301. And again, these are some examples of Gandy Boulevard and what that elevated section will look like. And this is underneath. So if you don't have any turn lanes, we can make it as narrow as possible. And this is our matrix, the 3 arrows that Imran showed. This is the information. We looked at the environmental impacts, right-of-way impacts, mitigation, right-of-way mitigation costs, and construction costs. So since we're still in the very conceptual stage, we don't have any numbers yet, but just relating them to each other, low, medium, high, and very high. So in conclusion, all the alternatives.
Sorry, Gail, I just want to go back to
Okay.
Michelle Rudishauser. A couple things I want to point out with this matrix. One, I just want to clarify what I had said earlier when Imran had first brought up that graphic of the Gandy. Our 2-lane elevated option is 1 lane in each direction, but the point I was trying to make earlier is that was just an example of what they're doing, what they did at Gandy Boulevard in Tampa, and our typical section might not look exactly like that. So visually it's helpful to see that, but I just wanted to clarify that our 2-lane elevated is 1 lane in each direction. Our 4-lane elevated is 2 lanes in each direction when we just look at this table. The other thing that I want to point out is these green highlighted lines are not saying that these are our recommendations to move forward with. They're simply saying taking the traffic that Imran did and then looking at those 3 options that perform the best. Then we also have to look at the other constraints, the environmental constraints, the right-of-way impacts, the cost, et cetera, and then we sort of get a full picture of what it would look like if we looked at all of these iterations. A couple other things to note, it's just important to note, this is a very condensed version of all of the options we looked at. We looked at 10 lanes, 8 lanes, 12 lanes on Corridor A. They were extremely impactful from a right-of-way standpoint. We looked at other iterations along corridors B and D that were also much more impactful than these. And so these were sort of the best of the crop. And so this is what we wanted to summarize here. And then, Gail, you can explain that. Thank you.
So again, those were the corridors that we analyzed, and all the alternatives. There's not one that rises to the top. That's a cream of the crop. Like this, lowest right-of-way impacts, lowest environmental cost, and the highest moving traffic. There's not one. So you have competing interests that we're going to have to look at. We are looking at Corridor A. Again, Michelle mentioned that we looked at 6, 8, and 10 lanes. And when you add more lanes, you don't get the return on adding those lanes. So it's a diminishing return when you look at that. And you also have to look at the impacts to the businesses and the churches. When we did the 10-lane layout, you're potentially hitting St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church. And is that what we want to do in this area? Corridors B and D perform well, but again, you have the impacts. You have the impacts to Sanctuary Cove on Corridor B, and then Corridor D, you have Bradenton Castle, which is an historic area. So there's competing interests there. And so we're in the process now of further evaluating these impacts to see which one we would recommend moving forward. As Michelle and Imran mentioned, we are looking at Corridor A. What can we do to maximize Corridor A to get the most bang for our buck?
All right, thank you. I'll start out kind of talking like we did earlier. You know, obviously, when you look at impact, somebody's going to be impacted no matter what.
Yes.
When you look at current corridors and the way you can maybe improve them short-term to get to the actual project, because whatever project ends up happening, it's years down the road, and then it's years of construction, and it would be a lot of time. So I think it's important for all of the counties and the Manatee County, City of Bradenton, City of Palmetto, to really let this process play out, because so far it's going in a direction that looks like we are going to have a positive impact coming out of it. Obviously, you mentioned Braden Castle, you mentioned Sanctuary Cove. You also have to factor in 9th Street East that comes into Bradenton where it's going to land.
Yes.
Because it does affect that neighborhood as well.
Yes.
So, you know, when you put the things on and you really go through it, you know, like I said, we all may have our picks right now from the standpoint of a government body, but I just feel that I'm talking to our council now, we've got to let the process play out. I'm very confident that when it comes down to the time, we're going to have some issues no matter which one is picked. But we're going to have the least amount of issues when it comes to the timing of it, because you are doing the process.
Yes.
And when you go federally and state, and when the lawsuits come out and the things that happen, you have to be able to say, we did it fairly amongst everybody. And that's the important part. So, you know, we know the Braden Castle part of it, the residents, the historic part of it, what it would do. We know what through 9th Street East, going over to Sanctuary Cove. If it would have been done in the 90s, Sanctuary Cove didn't exist. Now it does exist. So it affects residents where there's already a corridor that's going to affect residents, but what's the least impact? Unfortunately, we can do nothing, and that we can't do nothing.
Right.
We have to change because we are the most impacted by it, and, you know, we have to continue. And I've always said 40% because that's what we had talked about early on. Now it's up to 47% is regional traffic that doesn't want to stop in downtown Bradenton. So how do we get 40% of that off that can then enhance the businesses
Absolutely.
around the area? Because now the only people on it are the ones that want to go to it. And the ones that are regional are just trying to get through. And a lot of times if I'm on Cortez Road going north and the elevated thoroughfares there, you know, I may be willing to do it because I want to go to Palmetto or go north of the river, and vice versa, where I don't have to stop at lights and it speeds up the time. So I think there's, the study with the way things are going really is progressing, not as quick as we all like, but, you know, I think there's opportunity, and I hope the residents that are here for both areas are confident kind of with this report showing what's happening. So, Councilwoman Moore.
But thank you all for coming. And we've had many conversations, so I know you guys know what my thoughts are, my hopes. As the mayor said, both of the two alternatives, E and D, I believe it is.
Yes.
Run through Ward 4. I know that you hear from Braden Castle regularly, and so all those concerns are valid, and it is our historical area. And 9th is the historic, that was our downtown back then. So there's a lot of historical context, and I know that you all already know about that and are factoring that into your calculations. I am curious about the matrix, at the difference, like I'm surprised, and maybe I just don't understand what the column that says other bridge means. I'm surprised that Corridor A with 2 elevated lanes is so much anticipated to perform so much better than Corridor A with 4 elevated lanes, as far as hours saved and.
Our traffic expert up here.
It does look like it's backwards.
You would
That
think
was-
that it would be more with more lanes.
Yes. When you look at this and you say you're adding 2 more lanes, why is the saving going down? it's not because of this, and this is the fact that we are looking at the entire area. When you look at a 6+4, that's 10 lanes. When you think about, you're taking US 41 and where they merge before the split, you have 4 lanes on Business 41, and now you have 10 lanes on US 41. So you have 14 lanes coming in. And our project sort of stopped there. We didn't make any improvements north of that. And so that, we sort of moved the bottleneck from the bridge and this to that location. So what this is really saying, not that this is a bad alternative, is you need to make further improvements because you found a way to get the traffic to a certain point, but then you didn't make the improvements at that point. So it's not, when we look at a system-wide, I sort of have to report the area-wide number. But when we did this, that was obviously, we expected it to be better than the 2-lane because you're bypassing all the intersections. The other thing I should point out is I was expecting that number to be even higher than 63,000. But what ends up happening is we only had one access point where US 301, based on a study area that we, was developed based on the feedback from the locals. This elevated only had one access point and one exit point, which was near Red Barn, and the entrance northbound, the exit was before the US 19 and 41 split. And then when we say 47% of the traffic is through, even though there's more capacity, if you look at it, the V over C of that is 0.77. That tells me you could have put more traffic there, but only 47% of the traffic was going through. So unless we provide intermediate access points for somebody to join, there wasn't enough traffic to satisfy that capacity, the physical capacity. But to answer your question, we just brought a whole bunch of traffic, and at some point our project had to end, and when where it ended, there just wasn't enough capacity. So the savings that we developed early on, we lost at that touchdown point.
Okay. Also, I would love to do that deeper dive in some kind of follow-up meeting or whatnot. That would be great, and I appreciate the offer.
Yep, yeah, we would be very happy, Michelle Rudishauser, we'd be very happy to do that. We understand we've taken 4 months to really dive into traffic, and this is a lot to digest in a 10 or 15 minute span. And so we'd be very happy to meet to go over any part of this presentation.
That would be
All
wonderful.
right, thank you, Councilwoman Coachman.
Thank you. Thank you. This go-round compared to the past, you guys are really, really showing the interest in also the what the impact will do to the area. Either of the routes presented will go through a large portion of Ward 5. So I understand Ward 4 will be impacted, but if we also look historically, Ward 5 has been impacted quite a bit. So progress, we know, it hurts a little. Growth does hurt. Growing pains are real. I appreciate all the thought and the research that you're doing, and it helps us better understand that, yeah, it's gonna hurt, but one might hurt more than the other. So we're going to try to minimize that. I get it and I see it. I'm sure I'll be talking with you all. I was kind of, letting the process go before I just started putting my 10 cents worth in. But I just really want you to know I appreciate all what is being done this go-round compared to the last time. And I feel the community would appreciate it as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll close it out. When we go back to the original study, and the original study actually started with an elevated thoroughfare at US 19 and the merge off of the Skyway Bridge coming that way. So I think what you just said, Imran, about you were putting a lot of traffic up in the air and then dumping it into a smaller funnel type situation where originally it was to be funneled all the way to the split on US 19. And so, yes, we need to make sure we're working through the MPO as well as DOT to get in the plan of what's going to happen north of DeSoto Bridge. Because we may solve our issue there, but if you're bringing 10 lanes into 4 lanes, it's not going to not create more issues over there. And some of that will create more issues even for some of the residents that we're trying not to impact in Sanctuary Cove and other areas north of the river. So that is a good segue into saying, okay, now how do we fix a little bit north of the river to get to the split at 19, even though that is in the study. So that's something that we've already talked about, and I've talked some with staff at MPO about getting into the work study, working with DOT. And as we know, that in the past, it was just a come down and we're doing it. And we still have some mandates from DOT that we have to abide by now that we're dealing with that will be later on, not in this project, but other projects. So, but sometimes you have to work for the good of the whole. And this study is really progressing to do the best with the least, but we've got to, as we remind the residents, remind everybody, you've got to go through the legal process to get to the right, so it doesn't delay the project for another 5 years and 5 years, because we know we've got to do something, and unfortunately, every reaction, or everything that we do creates a reaction for somebody. And so I appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate my 15-minute limit is going to be longer, but it's not 30 turning into an hour, because we're not at that point where when we get up and have a lot more comment about it. And, you know, because until the overall project, then we can debate on that. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much. You have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, you too.
Madam Clerk?
Item 5 is citizen comment.
All right, at this time, we're going to have citizen comment will be accepted during the citizen comment portion of the meeting on any non-agenda item, future agenda item, or topic of relevance to the city. Comments will be accepted on the public hearings at the appropriate time. There's a lot of things going on in our city and around the country that are very emotional, and they're emotional for all of us, but this is a business meeting, so we do have a policy and rules that as you talk, every citizen has their 3 minutes. We want to listen. We will listen to you. We will then you'll sit down. If there's other citizens come up, then the council will have a chance to answer some of those questions, or we will direct you to staff to talk to. But we do ask for decorum in the audience. We do not allow clapping if you agree with somebody or booing if you don't agree with them, because it's very important to show everybody respect, because everybody's opinion counts and matters. And obviously, at times, this board has to make a decision that may or may not always agree with you, but they're going to look at all the facts and go through things. So it's very important that we keep decorum, because if not, you will be asked to leave, or if we have to adjourn the meeting, then we'll have to deal with the circumstances at that time for disruption. So at this time, I'm going to call for citizen comment. I only have one citizen comment card, so if you do want to do it, please fill out a card. The first person comes up, give it to the clerk. But the only comment I have for right now is Linda Grauman, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your city of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Linda Grauman, 4 Oak Street, Bradenton Castle. I originally had planned to speak on something else regarding the presentation that was made, but I guess the only question I have now, after hearing the presentation, would be, are the slides that were presented here, will they be available to residents
We
after
can
the
make them
meeting?
available. Yeah,
They will be?
just send a message to our clerk, and she'll forward them to you,
Okay,
email.
'cause
You
we-
can talk with her. So.
Yeah, I'm part of a committee for Bradenton Castle, and we would like to share that with the rest of our
Sure.
residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other citizen comment. Oh, coming up. just state your name and city of residence for the record.
Barbara Person Tersini, 13 Columbia Street, Braden Castle Park. I'd like to thank everyone, FDOT, all the council people for today's meeting and this topic, because it does help with knowledge and our anxiety of this whole situation. And as Linda said, because we're part of the FDOT committee, the Bridge Committee in Braden Castle Park, we'll go back to our community and explain things to the residents. I understand that no matter what is chosen in this process, impacts will happen. And with that being said, we all have our sweet spot and why we believe that certain areas should not be impacted. And what will be best for all is what should happen down the road. And we just pray that it won't be Braden Castle Park. That's all we can say about it, with the environment, the elderly, our situation. And we'll continue to pray. We'll continue to explain to people, and we understand the process has to go through because it's been explained to us that way. So we are having faith. We are trusting in our last meeting with FDOT to give them the time they need to do the work that they need, because we had talked about an online petition with them. We had talked about all these things. But we were asked to trust. We were asked, we don't want to stop the process as it was stopped years ago, because that's why we're here now. So we're going to continue to trust and speak respectfully and pray for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have no other citizen comments, so I'll open it up to the council. Any comments or concerns? All right. Go ahead, Ms. Moore.
I just want to commend the Braden Castle Committee for all the work and dedication that they've really put in a lot of time, and they're very passionate. So I think the public engagement is, to be commended.
Ms. Coker.
Yeah, I just want to say that, as we've said, that to do nothing is not an option. And I hope that as we go forward, we're going to be doing what's best for everyone. And if there are people that are negatively impacted, which we expect will be the case, that we'll have a way to find out, to figure out a way to mitigate or compensate or make adjustments so that it becomes a win-win. Because in the end, we're all part of this community. We're all suffering from the non-decision from before, and I think we should all work together to be the best that we can, and to be forward-thinking and to be looking ahead.
Ms. Coachman.
Thank you. I'm listening to references about last time being stopped, progress being stopped, as if to say, because it was stopped, that's why we're in a mess. No, we were in a mess then. We were in a mess, that's why it stopped. Now FDOT is giving it more of a deeper dive. But to those that feel like there was a mistake in stopping what was appearing to be done and the heavy impact it would have made on an area, I hope you really think about that, because stopping it then made it possible for now, for them to look at it deeper and to make a decision not based on the easiest or possibility or, oh, well, it doesn't matter. So it was stopped, yes. It was a mess then, it's a mess now, but being stopped at that point at least brought us to what we have now. Giving it more thought, looking at it statistically. So we are in a good place, but I really hope that we will not hold any negative thoughts to FDOT or the city of Bradenton for stopping it years back.
Ms. Coachman, you and I don't disagree a lot, but I'm going to disagree a little bit with you on this, the point of, I think most of us are talking about in the 90s, when there was opportunity to do more studies and get a whatever alternative. The study that happened 5 years ago is what you're, I think, more referring to, which I agree with you on that. It was, and again, this isn't bragging, this isn't anything. I went to every meeting. I was at the first meeting at the church, and one of the only I don't think I was the only government official there, because it was that important at the time to say, hey, what's happening? What's going on? And that's when the old DOT was turning into the new DOT and trying to give out that information. And obviously, technology has changed a lot of things, even in that 5-7 years, to where you don't have that big, ugly Leroy Selman. You have the new Leroy Selman that still affects the neighborhood, but it doesn't affect it at the level it's at. So when I talk about the past, I more think of 30 years ago, when the bridge should have been done by 2005 or whatever was going to be done, when there wasn't the residents on either side, more Sanctuary Cove area, and not Bradenton Castle, because I don't even think that was a thought back then. But the area of, we still would have had impact on 9th Street East or 15th Street East. So that would have been impact, but it would have been a lot less impacted at the time, from areas. So, that's what I look at is how we let that happen 30 years ago. And I'd say we in general as a community, how we don't, the people sitting up here 30 years from now aren't talking about the same thing.
Right.
And that's where, yes, I agree, because we kept telling them this isn't happening. But we were all young and new in this business. Now we have worked with them, and DOT is a good partner now. And that's what's making this a better process. No matter what, Councilwoman Moore, all three alternatives touch her ward.
They do.
All three, two of them impact your ward at some point. So it's going to affect the residents, but all of us up here are stewards of the whole city. We're not just your ward, we don't care, your ward, we care about the whole city. And 47% is the updated amount. If we can get 47% off our roads with 44th Avenue East opening up, think about how we could get through our city, even in rush hour, quicker, and that's what the goal is. Now, again, most of us probably won't be alive when it's done, but we hope that we at least had the process. I mean, Josh is looking over there. Chief Kramer's like, I want to be alive, but I do too, but these projects still take 20 to 25 years once they get funded, and I mean, I hope it's only 10 or 15, but what's reality there? But we're fighting for the good. Everyone is fighting for the good of the city, no matter where you live in it, and appreciate it. And I admire the Sanctuary Cove people. I don't think any Sanctuary Cove people are here today. They are here, so we're fighting for them too, to benefit it. So, and I've had many conversations with residents over there, and trust the process. That's all we can say. And I think that process is showing so far the trust.
Well,
Ms.
I
Coachman?
often don't fully explain what I'm feeling or thinking. When I said it was stopped, it was like divine intervention, really, so that technology could catch up. And we have the absolute amazing people involved now. And FDOT has evolved into the new FDOT. So, no, I think there still was a reason why it stopped.
Got going there at that time, right?
Okay.
All right, nope, and like I said, it was a positive both ways.
Right.
Right. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
Item 6 is the consent agenda, and staff is requesting approval of items A through W.
Mr. Perry.
Mayor, thank you. I had the opportunity myself and Mr. Williams to talk with all the counselors on items A through W. I would request that we pull item V, which is the extension of the visioning contract with Stantec. And Ms. Singer is here, and she can give us a little bit of an update, I think, on where we're at on that, and we may want to put that in for approval with a proviso motion before council.
All right, so can I have a motion to approve items A through W with pulling V?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start to vote in Ward 3.
Oh, that's
Ward 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
yes.
2.
She's not here.
Is that here?
I know. I said it after I thought it. I was thinking of, it kept thinking of that 3, so. 4-0. Obviously, Councilwoman Barnaby has an excused absence on a trip that was planned for a long time, so, thank you. So, Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. And Ms. Singer can take the podium, give a brief description of this item. However, just as a preliminary matter, so this does involve the Stantec Consulting Services Agreement, which was basically an undertaking to engage in visioning work. Of course, it was done with a number of community outreach meetings and other considerations, and involvement and analysis of what future visioning may look like for the city. There was value in a lot of the work that was provided. There was exception taken in some of my conversations with counselors to some of the conclusions, I think it's fair to say. And there was some impracticality and perhaps some misdirection as well in final outcome and conclusions of that report. I think by and large, it was an undertaking that the planning department had engaged in for the benefit of the city. Right now, we're also doing a similar study and outreach effort and visioning as it relates to the Dover Coal Economic Development Analysis and identification of the 3 deliverables contained in that contract. That contract is a little bit more specific in nature than I think the general kind of approach that was taken by Stantec. And this matter, technically, as a matter of process, is for extension of the contract. I think really where we're at on it is we probably want to close it out, and Robin can talk a little bit about the contract itself, where we're at. I believe most of the services have been paid for, I think all of them, and Robin was going to confirm that. She's nodding her head, so I'll let her take it from here, Mayor.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Robin Singer, Planning Community Development Director. Yeah, where we're at with that is we kind of put it aside for the time being because we knew EDC was working on their plan and program. However, I think there's a lot of changes that staff can make in talking with the City Council, and that we can finalize out a vision that is more in keeping with, I think, the community vision and recognizes some of the projects that we already have ongoing. And I think that was one of the failings in the program. I think the extension of the contract with Stantec is just to make sure that whatever we come up with, it is, they put that together in a project that is, good to look at, read, and something that we can put out there with the public. So
I think
mostly
the
it's going to be
confusion-
staff work.
Yeah, I wanted to say the confusion that came in is it looked like it was another $125,000 that we were approving. That's the original, and it's just extending the contract of that because we had the extensions to close it out.
Right.
And I think, but when you looked at it, are we approving another, and I knew we weren't, but that didn't get out properly, and even public comments from people came in to
Yeah.
say, why are we doing that if we're doing this? So we want to utilize, good, bad, or indifferent, the information that's there so we don't feel like it was wasted. And I think that's important. So I just wanted the monetary part of it to be understood.
Yeah, and I think we talked to Mr. Perry about it, and I think, $10,000, you can put a limit on it as to what our extension would actually include.
All right, I would like 5,000, but that's up to the council.
And it may only be that,
Right.
but, it just depends on what we come up with.
All right, Ms. Moore?
I think it's notable, I'm glad we pulled it off. I think that it's notable that, that the visioning project specifically excluded economic development. So to the extent that we're now working with Dover, it actually, in my opinion, is kind of complementary work. I'm using the visionary as information. I think it's good to have all the information regarding what residents and visitors care about and what they basically envision the city should look like. And then I'm hoping from Dover to have much more of a specific task-oriented result so that we could actually then have, projects that we check off to accomplish the economic revitalization of those specific 3 areas. I think, I agree that the draft wasn't perfect, but since we haven't had a chance to discuss it, I think, I would like for you all to know that while I agree that they left out, that it was disjointed and that it didn't address ongoing projects or previous decisions of council, but I do think that there were 3 things that were a takeaway from me that I thought were positive. The first one was the concept of the nodes, I think, is forward-thinking, and I think in our current built environment with environmental concerns, that the concept of nodes is probably where the future is going to be, because we, as we finished our FDOT presentation, increased capacity on roadways is not always going to be the only tool in the toolbox to address traffic and infrastructure that's related to transportation. I also think that it was notable that the agreement that we all share, that there should be a grocer downtown, specifically in that draft noted that it should be located on the east side of downtown. And I don't say this just as a east side cheerleader. I think it makes sense that, because if you look at where the groceries are, the east side is a bit of a food desert. And the freebie data that the CRA, with our CRA hats on, I think that's going to reflect that from the east side CRA areas, that those drivers are just crossing the bridge constantly to get people from that east side core, because it's within the CRA, to the grocery stores across the street. So there's definitely a need for that core area, but on the east side. And I think that there's a lot of great areas within that area that could be utilized in that regard. And then the final thing was their example street. I loved the example street. I love it for, in connection with the 2nd Avenue streetscape that Public Works is currently working on. I think as we, talk about coastal high hazard areas and projects and whatnot, rebuilding is going to have, in those areas, is going to have to encompass some kind of, I say playing around with density in certain pockets of it to get people off the ground and to bring that economic redevelopment on the base levels. So I just wanted to throw out there that I thought there was, the good, the bad, the ugly. That was my thought on the visioning. So I'm glad we're wrapping it up, and we'll see what happens after that.
Councilwoman Coker.
Yeah, I agree to the extent that having the information and the ideas, there were some things in there that were informative. I do feel like, though, having certain projects missed, that to have a plan like as you were discussing, I think it'll all be different once, and so it would need to be, I think, changed. So I think we're making the right decision to put this on, and I mean, if you need a motion, I'll make a motion.
I'll just put in a couple comments. I don't disagree with some of the concept of what it was, but I thought that the nodes were misguided in some of the areas that they put them. We know in life, location, location, location. And in concept, when talking with them and going through it, they missed the point of some of what we were doing. Not only missing our projects, not only missing several key stakeholders to interview, that they had their names, never reached out to them, was disappointing to me. Yes, I agree, we may need 2 grocery stores in a certain area. We know our downtown is probably more of a food desert than east side of town. East side of town, you can jump right on there and get to Publix, and from what I hear, a Detweiler's is going in right by River Isles in that plaza. So that's going to be still a little bit of a drive, but it's close. Huh?
Yeah, I hadn't heard that confirmed.
Yeah. No, I've heard it, and I won't say anymore. But I just think that I was very, very disappointed in the draft product. Now, again, a draft product, you can always go back and say, change this, change that. But when you missed key stakeholders, you missed a lot of what was happening, and I was disappointed, and maybe it wasn't as much in them as all of us, that most of the meetings were not well attended, and then it was just like, well, how do we engage that? How do you do it? But when you're missing key stakeholders, maybe that's part of it. And I'll say this at the beginning, I slowed this down for a while with those same concerns before when we pulled it off an agenda. We waited about, 6 months to a year, brought it back, and still got the product that I didn't think was worth it. That's why I think the EDC was, part of it. But again, I still don't think, we spent the money, let's utilize the good parts of it and go from there. So I still would only be comfortable with up to 5,000 right now. And I think if other than making a motion just to eliminate it right now, because we can use we got the draft plan, what are they going to do more for $5,000 or $10,000? I mean, we've got the draft plan, we can take from that.
Mayor, it's council's prerogative for sure on that. If I could just give some recommendations on the scope of the motion, because I think there's some things that we want to do to close this out, and really we're at a point with this report. I agree with all the comments that were made, and there are certainly shortcomings of different, a variety of different nature. But as it relates to where we are right now, and kind of a impetus to close this out in a positive way, use the positive of the report and the like, I would probably recommend a motion to approve this second extension and direct planning and administrative staff to finalize the closeout of the report itself, and to include prefacing and commenting throughout on some of these issues that we think need to probably be addressed and formally stated into the report by staff, and ultimately limit any further expenditure to $5,000, basically.
Okay, because we know if we put 10, they're going to spend 10.
Right.
If we put 5, they're going to spend 5. And, I don't know why they wouldn't close it out within the 125,000 already. So,
Yes,
but,
sir.
I'm Councilwoman Coker. I mean, I think that's probably the best case scenario with what the motion Mr. Perry just said.
That's my feeling. My motion was going to be to limit it to 5,000. I agree. I don't know why we don't just cancel it, but I will defer to y'all. You understand that process. So, I'll make a motion to approve.
So moved what Mr. Perry had read into the record.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, any further discussion, Ms. Moore?
Is that practical? Are we going to be able to wrap it up?
I think we're really talking about just the graphics. We're talking about the final product, and if they hand that over to us, I don't know our limitations on being able to do that ourselves, but I honestly haven't asked them for an estimate on it, because we just had the discussion very recently. So if it's not, we may have to come back and justify if there's any further expenditure, and I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Start the vote in Ward 4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
3.
Yes.
Carries 4-0. Thank you very much. All right, moving forward, Madam Clerk.
There are no hearings scheduled for today, so the next item on the agenda is 8A, Bradenton Riverwalk Half Marathon 10K and 5K.
All right. Ms. Thomas, you have that information? Good morning.
I'm Kelly Thomas. I'm the Event Review Committee Coordinator. And I'm bringing an application in for you to look at today because FDOT requires it, because it is going to require approval by them. This is a run that's going to go through Riverwalk, over the bridge, up the Palmetto Pier, and loop back around. They're doing 3. They're doing a half marathon, a 10K, and a 5K. So some of those will be looping multiple times. They're looking at the hours of the event itself is coming in, well, they've got 4 a.m. to 11 a.m., but they're not starting the race at 4 a.m. They're going to start the race around 9 o'clock. It's going to be held on March the 1st, 2026. You guys might remember this. They did this run last year, but they did it with Run 941, run. They've kind of put that off, and he's retired. So now this Gulf Community Performance has taken over this particular run. It used to be called the Caddies Half Marathon. Caddies is now closed, so they've revamped it. They're going to start over by the hospital, and that's where the starting point will be. Expect around 300 runners. They should be done by 11 a.m. And like I said, FDOT requires that you guys look at this individually versus the consent agenda, just because it does require that FDOT approval. So anything you base on your approval today will be based that they have City of Palmetto's approval as well as the FDOT before we issue a permit.
Any questions? Chair will entertain a motion to approve the Bradenton Riverwalk Half Marathon, 10K and 5K.
So move.
Okay, Mrs. Moore, we've got a second.
Second.
Mr. Schuessler. Is that correct?
That's
Or
correct.
Close enough? I guess I called him something else at an event.
That's spot on.
I don't remember, but I said it. So, having no further discussion, we'll start the vote in Ward 5.
Yes.
1,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Carries 4-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I'm going to move ahead to item C and just switch C and B for now. So we will call for item C at this time. So who is going to, anybody from staff going to present that before the applicant comes up? Mr. Perry, have you prepped everyone on this
Yes,
for
sir.
the most
Mayor.
part?
We've
So-
had some discussions, and
Okay.
if Mr. Williams wants to comment further, that's fine.
Yeah, if
But
you
we
wanna-
have had some discussions. It's a unique situation. Mr. Kabuti is here to talk a little bit about the applicant's situation and circumstance.
Mr. Williams, do you have anything from staff before we go to Mr. Gabuti? Okay, welcome. Please state your name and organization for the record.
Hello, Council, Mr. Mayor, Chief, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here today and see you. And I'm bringing today, of course, thank you, Tamara. I knew I'd mess that up. So we're talking about a project that we're all very proud of, and this wouldn't have happened without the support of everybody here. And especially if I could say something for former Fire Chief Gallo, who was the one that pushed me to say, you can do workforce housing. And I said, what does that mean? And then he really was the pioneer for the Met 1. And it's something that I'll always remember. And now that as we continue with the continuation of the Met projects, it's something that'll always be a connection between that board and Fire Chief Gallo and as we continue. So I want, the history will take us forward. And, we're very fortunate to be able to work with an amazing CRA. Chris, KK, and Dr. J have really given more support than one would ever expect. And so that's something I also am very appreciative of. And Public Works has actually approved this, and Dawn or Kim would be here, but they're busy today. And so we have a unique opportunity here. When you see you'll see on the left is the Met. So this is the Met 2, which is across the street from the Met 1, which is our Class A workforce housing building, which is at 94% occupied. And even after going through one full cycle of a year leases, we're back up to 93%. So coincidentally, when those leases expire, people generally move out. So we had 40% of the people move out, and we filled it up. So it shows that the product is necessary and the prices are right, and it's something that, again, we're very proud of. What you can see to the left of the screen is the Met 2A, which is going to be the very first net zero workforce housing project in the country. I'd say even more global, but let's keep it at the country for right now. And what this does is the people living in these, because in Hunters Point, that's on the water and the prices are expensive and you have to buy that. So this will prove that what we're able to do is that you don't have to be rich to be able to allow for when the power goes out, which we know the power goes out even during a heavy rain, that you will still have power. Your fridge will work and your air conditioning will operate. And this is the test that we want to have. And, thank you, Mr. Perry, for your support on this. as we go to creating the first net zero multifamily. And due to space and the requirements to have the two trash containers on site, what we're asking for is something that, it's not a normal request, but we will build the trash compacting system for the Met 2A prior to the net zero building. And our request is that we've hired this third party, Affinity Waste Solutions, and they will pick up every day between Monday and Thursday between 5 and 7 p.m. And they will take the trash over to the Met across the street, the Met. We're confused with we call it 2B for right now, but the larger Met across the street that will have all the trash components. And that will allow us to have additional space to achieve net zero. So Public Works is aligned with this, or else they would probably be here, but I know Kim, she thought this was a good idea. And we wanted to bring it to you to ask for your permission and this kind of not normal request, just so that we can use the space for solar panels and battery storage, which normally we would never use on a normal workforce housing project.
Any questions for Mr. Gabuti?
Mayor, if I could just make a couple of comments to follow up on Mr. Booty's presentation. As council may know, we typically shy away from concierge trash service and allowing people not to utilize the city's garbage collection system. However, there's very unique circumstances to this, to the extent that really you're talking about the temporal aspect of it being basically right across the street from the Met, the large Met, Met 2A. Also, Met 2A will have a compacting system, so there's efficiencies, tremendous efficiencies in compacted trash as it relates to uncompacted trash to the pickup. There's also the structure itself and the program related to this. I think is it 16 units, Marshall, or
15?
15, yeah, 15 multifamily apartments. And it's a tight space, and it's novel, and I think, the city should join Mr. Booty in being proud of the fact that it is net neutral, and really what they're going to do is use solar panels and battery packs to provide power, and that will basically not have a FPL bill for the tenants and the use of energy and kind of the carbon footprint and things like that. So it's very unique in that regard. If those factors weren't present, I think we would typically pursue what our traditional position is, which is you've got to make it work on site and everything. But it's acceptable to the extent of it is managed on a daily basis. It's professionally managed by a waste solutions company, and it's so close, and the program is novel. So we would recommend approval of it under these limited circumstances. We don't think it sets precedent for expansion or a diminution of the position we've taken in the past.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Coachman.
Yes, thank you. So I'm assuming that the receptacle on the Met 2B can handle this increase,
Yes.
because it's all compacted, so we already know that
Yes.
that can suffice. It wouldn't be hanging outside.
Yes, for sure. And we've actually got added capacity.
Okay.
And one of the things that Public Works requested that before the lead net zero building is completed, that the trash system is functioning at the 2B, the larger Met. So day one, even if the Met 2B is not completed, the trash system will be operating.
Well, if there's no further,
Miss
someone else?
Coker?
Sorry. Yeah, I definitely, I love how you're bringing us, bringing us all along. And I have in the past, we've been had requests for concierge service, and we've been advised that there are some real downfalls. Do we want to change the name, not call it a concierge service? Because it's a little bit different, because I don't want someone to come back to us and say, oh, we're just going to have private trucks come and pick up. And you let them do it, why can't we? Do we want to identify it differently? if it doesn't matter, I just want to go on record that I don't want someone coming to us and saying, oh, well, you let him, so we're going to do our concierge service.
Can I chime
Yeah,
in on
and
that
I
real
think
quick?
that one of the things that I think of it is, it's still on site. It's how you're making something work. It's not like an off-site property that's doing something. This is kind of one project.
I just want to be
It's still gonna be in
clear.
the city garbage can.
If somebody
so-
comes back to
Right.
me,
It's just them taking it from one property to the other, so they don't have to put the garbage bin on that site.
I like
literally.
what
To make
he's
sure
going to
that,
do.
yeah, to make sure
Absolutely.
that you're not requiring 15 people to carry their trash across the street and put it in another dumpster that is still part of one project.
Right, so
Right,
what,
so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's another name to spin it, Mr. Williams or Mr. Rudisell, but
I'm not trying to throw a wrench in. I know that, that there are private haulers out there and that there are some concerns about them. I don't want to throw a wrench into this
this isn't a
project. I
private
just want
hauler,
to.
though. This is moving it from one location to the other.
Exactly. That's why I'm trying to differentiate.
I think, so your point's very valid, but ultimately, the city of Bradenton will service this compactor. So all we're doing here is moving it from one site to the other, ultimately that's serviced by the city of Bradenton. Your private haulers aren't doing that. We're not servicing. So what Mr. Gabuti is doing is providing a service to his net zero clients, but ultimately, the city of Bradenton is hauling the garbage away. So that is the difference between.
That's where, if this was on the corner of the same piece of property, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Right.
But because we require on separate pieces of property, garbage pickup from that specific piece, this is good.
I like what he's doing. I just don't want to have somebody else come back and ask for concierge because we gave it to him.
Mr. Rudisell, is there any issue with the wording and the explanation when it comes back?
No, I don't have an issue with the way that it's presented. I mean, the only question in my mind is, looking 20 years in the future, do we need to do something to tie these properties together if they're going to be developed this way, and to ensure that they continue to be managed as a single site? And we could talk about that offline with staff. But no, I mean, in terms of precedent and the concept, I don't have a concern.
Okay.
well, also going to be, Scott, this is the one we talked about adding the LURA, even though it's not in the CRA. So they'll be we can connect that way. We can include the trash as a continuation under the land use restriction.
Okay.
Ms. Moore?
I think, well, I was just going to remark that, that I hear what you're saying, and I'm confident that if, to the extent that anyone else said, oh, but you did it here, my response is, it, really depends on the project and the level of the project. I think everyone knows that I want to see good projects, and I want to see developers really put in some effort and not just bring us, the average everyday ho-hum thing. So if this encourages future developers in our area to put their best foot forward and have that partnership and that collaboration even more, ease and smooth, then I welcome that.
Mrs. Coachman, you had a motion?
Yes, thank you. Motion, Mr. Mayor, motion to approve the solid waste management plan for the Metropolitan 2A and 2B.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second, and then we'll get discussion. Second by Ms. Coker, discussion.
Should we friendly amend to reflect this conversation that they just had about the LURA and addressing that the two properties are always together?
That's something that'll come down the road with the Laura, in my opinion. I'm not the lawyer, though.
Yeah, I mean, we could address it either way. I mean, I think
I think it needs
we're
to
already
be, yeah, but I think it needs to be worked on and when it's brought at the right time.
I think it, I don't know where we're at on the SIP.
Right.
But typically, solid waste is handled in the site improvement plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
so
and
all
we can
that'll
put it-
come
yeah, we
with the
can
process.
Stamp the plan, we
Right.
can put it in the LURA, there's all kinds of things we can do to make sure that we keep the clutches on it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, perfect. So we have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Yes,
great day.
sir. All right, Madam Clerk,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
moving forward to B on new business.
Yes. East Bradenton Park improvements.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This matter basically is explained fairly well in the memo attached for council, which is basically that Manatee County is in the process of making park improvements to the East Side Park, which of course is located on 13th Street behind Tropicana. It's a fairly sizable piece of property. It's a fairly active area as well for community recreation, park use, and the like. The pool is being removed and installing a splash pad. There was a former prior baseball field that's already been demoed out, and they intend to replace it with a football field. There's a drawing attached as an exhibit, basically, to the submittal before council in the package as well. Really what they're asking for from the city is right-of-way parking, and they're requesting that there be 90 parking spaces in the right-of-way to accommodate parking at the facility itself and those events that they have, whether they be football or splash pad use in the summertime, things like that. So that's what's before council. Again, a county project. Really, the city's engagement and involvement involves that right-of-way parking. Councilor Barnaby had spoken with me about this, and she had an interesting point, and actually another councilor mentioned it too, that I thought was noteworthy, which is basically, with the pool, typically you would have lifeguards and the like, and one of the problems is that when they shut this down, what are the options? And we don't want kids swimming in the river or other areas that are unsafe. And so I checked with Jeff, and the Palmetto pool actually can be accessed through Freebie for transportation over the bridge, because we don't want young kids that have swimming challenges or the like and safety challenges that a pool presents not to have an option, particularly in August in Florida, where kids want to go in the water, right? And so that option is there. Currently. Hopefully the park will be completed. I believe that it is slated for completion by next year, and it's a fairly significant investment by the county to provide recreational facilities into that area on the east side of Bradenton.
Mr. Perry, before we get in a big debate on this, I would like to see if we can table this discussion and get with the county, and especially the ward council person, to get with the county and the county commissioner that's working that, to have further discussion, because I know there was some discussion a couple year ago, maybe more, and then there was some discussion, but I do understand that the county has pulled funding from this project. So before we get too far into us making a decision and then the county has kicked it down the road another couple of years, I'd like to have some more discussion. And I think the county, what I was told, and in some of the discussions early on, I haven't had discussions in a year maybe. But the pool and the splash pad, there's no right or wrong in that maybe because of what it is, but the county obviously is a good partner with us, and I think if the funding's pulled, I'd rather find out what's going on.
I was unaware of this, Mayor.
Yeah, I just found out.
Yes, sir.
So if they've already pulled funding from it, we need to get down and say, okay, what's the plan? How's the plan? Obviously, it's in the middle of the city. If that park is going to be a football park, which we have a football park right down the street at Norma Lloyd,
Right.
What are we going to do to fix up Norma Lloyd if the county is putting a turf field there? So I think there might be some better collaboration to get together to say, before we make a bunch of approvals and changes, how do we work together? And again, nothing to our staff bringing it forward, because they didn't know. I don't know that anybody knows the funding was pulled until I found out yesterday or day before. Again, they had to make some priority changes, like everybody does. And the pool is still being discussed. Somehow there was meetings, I believe, and the majority of the people that went to those meetings wanted a splash pad, but I don't know.
No, they wanted
who
the football field.
The football field, but the splash pad was.
And that's why the splash pad was
but-
the only option.
And the pool wasn't utilized by as much as it was because of what it was.
It was in
Right,
such
right,
disrepair.
yeah,
It was,
so-
wasn't even usable.
And again, we want to be good partners with the county, and we do not want to be in the pool business.
No, absolutely not.
Well,
Yeah,
It-
so that's my thoughts on pulling it before we get in down a road that we've made a lot of decisions, and we don't even know how far we're out.
I appreciate that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that you have considered pulling it because there is a lot more discussion I think needs to be had. I actually received a letter from former Councilman Harold Byrd, because his home, that little area, it's a really nice, quiet little area, and bringing in,
And I have
anyway.
shared, I received it as well, and I
Okay.
shared it with Miss Melton to put in the record.
Okay, that's
If
what
she
I.
got it,
yeah.
if she did get it. fine.
I was gonna send it to you, but I just got distracted because I just read it this morning. But okay, I won't go any further then, but I appreciate that we're gonna have further
Potential
discussion.
motion for tabling, I think, is appropriate.
So moved, if that's,
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Coachman, a second by Ms. Moore. We'll start the vote in Ward 2. Never going to get a vote in Ward 2, are we?
no,
Today.
not today.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1.
Yes.
It's by habit, you go to the next one, so. All right, so that is tabled for further discussion. I'll start the lead on that, Ms. Coachman, and then get you with the right people as far as logistics and see where it can go.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk?
We do not have any other items on the agenda.
Okay.
Mayor, I do have one item under.
Yes, sir, Mr. Perry.
New
Unfinished business.
New business. It was not listed under item 8, and I apologize for that, but it's the emergency purchase that I typically give. There's 3 items that I want to talk about, but particularly the first item, which was an emergency purchase approved for $1.137 million, which is fairly significant. I think it warrants a fairly good discussion and briefing to council. This was basically for a temporary EQ tank, an equalization tank over at the wastewater treatment center that is required by water keepers. I guess it's, so a temporary tank basically is Madu Tank is the company that will be renting this tank from and installing it. It's about, I think, was it one, as far as capacity goes, 2 million gallons holding tank. And the reason why that's important is we have to be thoughtful of what we've experienced last year during the storm season, even with the rainfalls that we've had recently in the area this year. And when you look at the wastewater treatment plant, you've heard me say before that it's paper rated at 9 million gallons a day. But when we have this rainy season, the report I received yesterday, early in the morning, was 11 million gallons per day on processing and 14 by the end of the day. That creates basically things that are called blankets, which are sludge and other types of environmental process conditions over there. This particular equalization tank will be located on the area that the city owns due west of the wastewater treatment facility. And really what it is it's a holding tank. And so you say, well, what good is that going to do? Well, 2 million gallons basically allows us to manage the anaerobic process. The first phase, when water comes into that plant, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this, but I kind of like this stuff, is the activated sludge in the equalization chamber now. And that's really where we kind of charge the water that comes in through aerators. You put oxygen in, it stimulates basically all of the molecules in there, and then you add bugs. And what that does is that's what's called activated sludge. It starts basically the process of creating the separation of solids and microbiologies and things like that into the tank. And then it goes over to clarifiers that basically separate the solids through dissolved oxygen and other processes over there. We are hitting this plant with a lot of upgrades. You've already approved through an emergency appropriation what we call the big, beautiful blue box. What that is basically is it goes in as the final process to separate solids before those blankets basically with blind screens. You've heard even Jim McClellan talk about how our capacity would be limited. What happens when the screens are blinded is we have to discharge partially treated sewage water. It's not fully treated to the river. And so by having this capacity, the equalization tank, to kind of hold water and store it and process it with this activated sludge, where all of the microbiology is performing in an efficient manner. The bugs aren't dying, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We do that in the off hours when flows are less. And so that provides us some flexibility to go above the 9 MGD and be able to manage higher flows, upwards of 14, 18. When we have flows at 30 MGD like we had last storm season, all bets are off. Because really, lift stations are underwater and things like that. We're taking in so much that we can partially treat. But we have made investments over the last year to deal with these environmental conditions through the wastewater treatment process. I talked about the big, beautiful blue box, and that's being connected, I think, within a week or so. It's on site right now. We had to have a contractor do the piping, lay the concrete pads for it. And that's the final phase, what's called, before it goes into disinfection. We're also doing things that you've approved called WAS lines, which are basically allowing the clarifiers to waste so that we can remove solids through all of our clarifiers and press them, getting them out of the water. So our folks are doing a pretty good job. We're making investments. Source of the funding is Water Sewer Fund, and it's something that is required by water keepers. It will help us increase our ability to process over there in excess of those high flows, which at a 9 MGD plant, as I pointed out, will increase 5 million gallons a day without too much trouble. That's just in rainy season. And of course, you know, you add storm surge or other types of things, hurricane conditions, really adverse conditions, and then you're challenged even more. But that's the purpose of this, and I thought it was worthwhile to take the time to explain to you. What we ultimately will do, and I'll close out on this comment, is we did receive, I believe, $2 million for our permanent EQ basin. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah, and we will build a permanent equalization basin, which I think is going to be about 3 MGD.
It's a little over 2, yeah.
Little over 2, yeah, and that will provide us a more permanent solution so we don't have to rent this. I mean, I don't really know what it looks like. I'm having this envision of some pool that I built, you know, when I was like a kid. Remember the above-ground pools, and, you know, it's a big tank.
So, Mr. Perry, I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
before I go to Ms. Coker. First question is, have you got your doctorate or your master's yet in sludge? So,
I'm a lawyer that works in the building. That's what I tell people. It's not as good as it gets.
The other question is, you know, as we progress forward, this emergency purchase of 2 million gallons, will that be able to be utilized over the next several years? Is this something that is for a little bit more long-term, short-term, long-term, even when we get our 3 million gallon, or 2+ million gallon permanent, will this still be able to be there temporarily till we know we've got the rest of the plant fixed, which could be between 5 and 10 years?
Theoretically, it could be. I mean, it kind of comes down to footprint size, too. This thing takes up quite a bit of real estate over there. And we think by doing the permanent EQ tank, along with other things that we have process improvements going on over there, that'll be sufficient to handle most of the high flows we've experienced thus far. I guess what's important to talk about when you talk about high flows is what are you doing to bring flows down? And that's pipelining, manhole lining, lift station remediation, and the like, because as you minimize inflow and infiltration, these storms that we're having just in the last couple of days don't penetrate into our system, and so the flow should be less. So we're hitting it on both the collection as well as the processing side. As to your question, and the answer is, I don't want to rent anything any more than I have to.
Oh, we're renting it, we're
Yes,
not
sir.
purchasing it.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought it was a purchase.
Yeah, my bad.
So it's a rent.
Yep.
All right, Councilman Coker?
I can't imagine if he was gonna go into it in detail, what it would have been. But, I think he said this, but I wanna make sure this is coming from enterprise funds or general?
Enterprise funds.
Enterprise funds,
Yep.
okay.
Water sewer.
Just trying to keep.
Yep. Ms. Moore?
My comment is really about process. why is this an emergency? Because it's such a high amount, like, how did we not anticipate needing to rent it? Is Woodard involved? Like, and then also, if I could just make a suggestion that maybe we
That's a
add
really good
these
question.
to our briefings.
So let me tell you why it's emergency, and I'll go on a deeper dive. What the environmental plaintiffs wanted us to do was to use our new clarifier 3, which is 3 million gallons, basically, capacity. And we said, why would we want to do something like putting anaerobic waste into the clarifier that's not designed for that? It basically, so we had both Woodard and Curran, and we had, I think it was Poole and Kent, and Jones Edmonds Engineering submit a letter to the plaintiffs saying, this is not a good idea. It voids our warranty on a $17 million clarifier project. It would involve decontamination, decomp, afterwards, because you're putting waste that's not contemplated into that as a holding process, and there are other things like that. They agreed, the plaintiffs, but they wanted it before the storm season. And we didn't get that clarified. Those letters basically were coming out, I want to say the beginning of the summer, in hopes of actually having it installed prior to the storm season. But because we went round the mulberry bush with the plaintiffs and they're getting their permission, that's why it's emergency. Yep.
All right. So is that something we need an approval on?
No, we don't. I
don't.
just
That's- I
thought it
didn't
was
think so.
important because of the size of the expenditure. So the next expenditure that was emergency is significantly less. It's about $100,099 to be exact. And this is for repairs over at one of our holding tanks. And it involves wind rods and riser rods at the water treatment plant itself. And Ricky Fullerton's operation down there. Those wind rods and riser rods, they typically do deteriorate, and they're very important to the integrity of both the process and the physical asset itself, being those tanks. If you haven't been out there, and probably most people haven't, walking on a catwalk on top of a 4 million gallon tank, and there's, I think, either 4 or 6 of them out there.
I think there's 6.
Yeah, it's quite, that's where your drinking water is held. Yep, before it becomes, quote, finished, and it gets into our system and comes through our pipes and into our houses and homes. So that was $1 million, again, water sewer fund. And then lift station 13 was authorized as well by me for a relocation of the temporary lift station, basically. We had to go back to the market and really take a full look at what the overall cost would be to bring in this temporary lift station. And so we have U.S. Water, and Lance can talk more about this if necessary, and that will include both the project costs for the lift station and components, as well as installation.
Installation, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just as a kind of a quick recap, I wanted to make sure that we had very solid plans on what we were doing. We've reviewed it with our team, our engineering team, multiple times, made very appropriate changes that we thought were for the betterment of the project to make sure it's successful. And then we went ahead and had those quoted back out. And so we got what I feel is a very succinct quote for the project that we're actually doing. So very happy with the quote, very happy with the team's performance. Everything currently is on order and coming in. So once we finally have our final location, we'll be ready to start the construction. And that construction is about a 90-day construction time frame, and it'll be completed once we start. So that won't be any delays in between.
And how is the location that we're pursuing going?
That's what I was going to comment on. Obviously,
Is there any legal issues that we don't need to comment on that now, Mr. Rudisell, or is it's going through the eminent domain process that we approved last meeting?
I mean, we have 2 different paths that we're proceeding down that we talked about at the last meeting, and so we're still pursuing both of those paths at this point.
It's processing in the timely manner, so as soon as the equipment comes in, the process can start, the 90 days to get it installed. Ms. Moore.
We have a very, very thorough plan, so we're ready to execute as soon as we can.
and we will pursue legal remedies that I will even continue with Mr. Rudisell further, should there be further what we believe to be improper resistance?
I just thought I would update you all. You know, obviously, this is lift station 3, or 13. That is a precursor to the separate project of the expansion of lift station 3, and the replacement of the entire collection system, which is technically a third project. So just to keep you guys in the loop, the area that this affects, about 170 homes, they have a new sump pump, and it is different in color, but it is just as ugly and unattractive in the area as the blue one. And so I definitely feel like it will be an improvement to have this temporary installed in the other area. But, and Mr. Williams and I were able to discuss this pretty at length in our briefing before this meeting. To alleviate the concerns of the immediate area, though, what is really, you know, as excited as I am to get rid of the sub pump that is operating current lift station 13 and have that area look just a little bit more cleaned up, without progress or apparent progress on lift station 3's expansion, the neighborhood is always concerned that the temporary will become permanent, a permanent solution, and that is absolutely not the intent or, you know, what anyone wants. And so I was hoping, I was going to say this in my word comments, but I was hoping that maybe we could have either Ms. Clayback or somebody either present it at one of our meetings to give us a status of the design of the expanded 3, or perhaps, you know, give us a timetable of when we're going to have the community meetings, just to touch them again, because we haven't had one since March. And also, you know, as we discussed, the movement on lift station 8 has been observed and noted. And so I feel like there's an element of updating and reassuring that I think could be beneficial. So I just throw that out there as a suggestion. I was going to mention it in my word comments, but Ms. Clayback's not here, so she can't update us today.
Yeah, and just to comment on that, so, you know, remember this is grant funded, so as part of the stipulations in the grant, we are required to have community meetings, of which we'll schedule and have those meetings in accordance to the grant. I can assure you that the design of lift station 3 is underway. The pre-design was underway, that has not stopped. Our immediate focus and attention is lift station 13, so we don't have
Catastrophic
right,
event.
thank you, catastrophic loss, and being able to provide sewer service for the 170 residents. So that's our focus now. We're on path to get that done, and like I said, I'm very, very confident that we'll get it done in a timely manner while continuing to develop the progress and the process for lift station 3 and the collection system involved.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else, Mr. Perry?
No, sir.
All right, we'll go to council reports. We'll start in Ward 3.
Yeah, so seeing as we are coming into Labor Day, we want to celebrate and appreciate our workers. So I just wanted to take a moment to recognize the hard work and dedication of the men and women of Bradenton who keep us moving forward every day. From our city staff to first responders to our local business owners and workers across every field. Your contributions obviously do make a difference to our city, and we appreciate that. Along those lines, coming into Labor Day weekend, I also just wanted to mention that it's one of the busiest travel times of the year. So let's stay safe on the roads, look out for one another, and enjoy your time with your family and friends. Shouldn't have to mention this in 2025, but it seems to still be here in the light of ride sharing and freebies. But let's not drink and drive. We hear too much of it. So if you're going to be out on the roads, let's use our heads. I wish everyone a safe, restful, and enjoyable Labor Day ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Moore.
I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but, and I know, you know what is worth noting is, so we know that we've got now, it's the same vendor, but it was advertised as 2 different zones. And so we have now assistance for our, I don't know what you would call this sub-department, I guess landscaping.
Yeah, landscape and grounds.
Landscaping and grounds. And I don't know if you all are receiving comments, but I am definitely observing, but also receiving comments that the right-of-way grasses are very long and unkept. And my understanding is that the new vendor starts September 1, and so we're going to get caught up, and that's going to be very good. But I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that that really needs to happen because it is pretty unsightly. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting them on board and getting that caught up. I also wanted to mention, and I wanted to actually speak to Mr. Reese, Mr. Volker. But I wasn't unable to catch him on Monday when I was in here. I feel like I need to request a sweep of the area that is Braden Castle through downtown. And I totally appreciate the sentiment that this area was badly, beat up during Hurricane Helene's flooding. And I have compassion for days for all of the people that suffered in that. However, what I'm noticing is something as simple really as some seriously overgrown grass. It is very obvious that these homes are vacant, that they are not being occupied currently. And so, while I have the compassion, I also feel like you own that parcel and you need to maintain it. So I would love to just see, if you could do a little drive-through, because some of it is really egregious. I'm talking like 2 or 3 feet high of a microbiome, as one of my children would say, which is beneficial for the bugs, but not for the neighbors. So thank you very much.
To go to that, that is throughout the whole city. You can go anywhere and find
I know
2
we've
or
got
3 or 4 taller than that. And so I think that's something that we need to focus on, some issues that will, in code enforcement, you're gonna find other areas that have other code enforcement issues. So, Palmetto has just recently started a sweep on some of their businesses on their main drag through Palmetto, that the landscaping had died, and they made them replace it, because you have to keep your landscaping at what you were approved at the time you built. So that's gonna be how busy we wanna get, and Mr. Perry and I talked about this other day, Mr. Williams and I talk about it all the time. How much do we wanna be the Gestapo, is what Volker would say, but how much do we also wanna be compassionate and give them? Well, it comes to the point where it's not fair to the neighbors, but you could start at this center point of this building, and I'll bet you it would take them months to go out and start that, because they wouldn't get very far first day, then they'd go farther, and they go farther. And it needs to be done, I agree with you, but we gotta come up with a strategic plan on that, and I think that's up to Mr. Williams and Mr. Perry and Mrs. Singer working through that process, because again, it's getting worse again. It got better for a while, it seemed like, but some of the areas, and I drove through your Braden Castle, Two Rivers, Braden Castle Park, and Braden Castle the other day, and Village of the Arts, other areas that I think since what the city did after the cleanups last year, those places look better. They're staying cleaner than they were because it got a good sweep. We got everything. We really focused on Braden Castle area, really focused on 24th Street east of Riverside Drive. We really focused on Village of the Arts and downtown, because those were the most devastated, and they have stayed cleaner. But then you have those projects. So I'm on board with that, and that would have to be something that the administration will have to focus on, along with every other thing that's going on.
Sure, of course, yeah. I just wanted to bring it to his attention. I wasn't sure what exactly was happening in the other wards, but it's definitely noticeable. It's probably tied to the vacancies in my particular area, because it seems to me the most egregious ones are clearly vacant.
One of them wasn't on 24th Street East that they finally mowed. Somebody was
Okay.
living in that house when you're going down on the right where the big pothole was for the longest
Yes,
time.
yes.
So they mowed that, and I don't know if it's gone bad again. I didn't notice the other day because I turned before I got there.
I don't think they're as bad.
Bad, but
There's some
they
others.
were
On
living
Second
there.
Ave, yeah, there's
Yeah, they were
definitely,
living
they were
there, so,
living there. But yes, thank you very much. And then the other thing I was going to mention is, well, 2 other things real quick. I don't remember if I mentioned this last meeting, so just stop me if I did, that the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council is again hosting their annual Resiliency Summit here in Manatee County at the Convention Center in Palmetto. And those dates are, again, the second week of May, May 14 through 16. I'll keep you, I'll ask Ms. Melton to help me let you all know more about that as it comes nearer. But I just want to encourage us to be an active participant in that. The work that they do, I think, really could be beneficial to us as a municipality within the greater Tampa Bay area. They're very proactively procuring grant funding from all sorts of sources and doing a lot of studies and a lot of information that I think will be helpful to us. So being as it's in our backyard, I just want to kind of give them a little, pitch for our involvement. And that could look like a variety of things. It could look like us being speakers at the, doing presentations or sending key staff that might benefit from some of the, as they develop the content, we might identify that. Two things, really super quick. I attended the Florida League of Conference last week, as I think most of you know. I found at least 2 of the sessions to be super beneficial. I shared information regarding that, and so hopefully you also found some benefit in that. And then finally, just to kind of clarify what I mentioned about the grocery store and its location, I don't want it to be misunderstood that that my goal is to get a grocery store just for the east side. That ties into my greater overall, I guess you could call it a vision, but just kind of not a planner, not an expert, thought that the Wares Creek area in Ward 3 and the northeast specifically, but to some extent also just east, Ward 5, is so adjacent to downtown that I just have I have this vision of the future where just as the downtown grows and expands, we're going to leach out of what we call our core. And those areas, in my opinion, are prime for being the residential component of our downtown area, even more to the extent that we've already added a lot of residents, and that's great because it gets us those economic, private partners to want to invest in the areas. But that's what I was kind of thinking was, when I say east, I don't mean, way out, super far east. Right. I mean, yes, I want it to serve downtown. It needs to be the downtown grocery store. So I just thought I would throw that out there as a clarification. I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Coachman.
I'm glad you said that because I live on the west side of Ward 5 and I'm always heading to Palmetto to go to the grocery store, even though it's about the same distance from my home to, Publix on Westgate.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So anyway, Ward 5, gosh, everything is always going. Mayor, I'm sure you'll speak to the happenings with the Housing Authority and also that we attended Mr. Love's funeral. Other than that, school is definitely back and the honeymoon is over. The kids are showing their true selves. I'm just so excited and anxious to get back to school today and hide in my room. No. But all is well. Everyone, just continue to do what you do. Be safe.
Thank you. Ms. Coker.
Okay, a couple things. First off, I wanted to put this out there kind of, sorry, it closed up on me. Let me get to it. Oh, shucks. Sorry, I apologize. The Florida Housing Finance Corporation has just announced the Hometown Heroes program. It started on August the 18th. This time it is limited, but if you know healthcare workers, school staff, first responders, public safety employees, court employees, child care workers, there are some very good programs for people looking for loans. It's first come, first serve. Talk to any mortgage broker that is out there. I think they have first-time home buyer credits. They have assistance with down payment assistance, but don't wait. If you're thinking about buying, get in touch with a mortgage broker and ask them about the Hometown Heroes, because once the money's gone, the money will be gone. Also, I want to address this. I know this is a bit of a hot button for some people, but as a past member of the Public Art Committee, my heart is very heavy to see the art being taken off the roads right now. But I don't feel that it would be appropriate for government to be judging art. And so while unfortunate, feelings aside, we don't have any choice. And we are committed to following the law. So while we may not like that it's being removed, before you pull your pitchforks out at us, think about, what the alternative is to have government be the judgment on art. But the bottom line is we have to follow the law, whether we like it or not. And, to that end, I'm a little dismayed, and I think the city has been really good about having the affordable housing and workforce housing projects, trying to address the issue of affordability, because we all know that there's a lot of people that are having a hard time to find affordable housing. But I'm really concerned about the rhetoric that I'm hearing out there in the community from some of the surrounding people and the public, demanding moratoriums, demanding impact fees, demanding all these controls, when that's doing nothing but making it more expensive. And they're job killers. Some of the rhetoric is going to really hurt an entire economy. You're talking about carpenters, you're talking about painters, you're talking about realtors, you're talking about a whole economy that you're trying to shut down. And so I really wish that rather than just getting out the pitchforks and starting to scream at everybody, that they would be a little more thoughtful as we go forward. And I am just heartbroken about the story about the child that was swept into the storm sewer in Sarasota yesterday. It could happen anywhere. I can't imagine what that grandmother must be feeling right now. We all played in puddles, but I don't know if we need to think about some type of an information campaign that would be appropriate to address it. I know I have a very large storm sewer that goes behind my house. My grandkids love to play in it, but I just don't know if there's any kind of an information campaign or something that we could do to address it. I'm not the expert in it. Just wanted to throw it out there. And with regard to the code enforcement, I've got an issue going on in my ward with the shopping center has a wall that was destroyed, and that was required by the original development as a buffer for Village Green. And I know that they've been cited, and we've tried to work with them, and they went and put up a wood fence. In the past, they've never been good about keeping that fence going. At one point, there was a homeless encampment back there with furniture, a dining table, everything. And so it's my understanding that they're going to try and approach the city, and I don't know if this makes it to council, but I am not in favor with allowing them to change the original requirement of having that concrete wall. Unfortunately, they have not been good stewards to that shopping center. They have the dead trees and the dead shrubberies and all that, and I know that code enforcement has tried to work with them in the past, and it's been difficult. But
It's the shopping center you're talking about.
It's the shopping center.
Right.
And I'm hoping, because there's some good tenants going in there. Manatee Memorial went in there. We've got Wawa there, and we've got a new Starbucks coming. Hopefully the tenants will be better about, making that shopping center look good. But I don't know what we need to do, but I am not in favor of allowing them to change the original requirement.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you. As Councilwoman Coachman had mentioned about Councilman Love's funeral we went to, and it was something that to really see, a lot of times when you you go to funerals and you know of people, you know of stories, you know of things, and, you know, people talk about, well, they were born this year and they passed away this year, and that's the dash in the middle that really makes the difference, because the dash is what is your life. And he just hearing things, but the probably the most that hit me with that is, obviously I knew the history of what's happened, what's been done and all that. But when you were sitting there listening to his family and his grandson and different people that were getting up and talking in his family, and just, you know, how he would say, grandson, you know, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is how you do it, and you always be kind in that. So my 15-year-old grandson wonders why I call him grandson now, but he's like, Papa G, you know, it's Jake. And I said, yeah, but now you're grandson. It was just kind of the history of what he was teaching those young people to be better stewards of our community. So it was a great opportunity to learn more than we knew, because he was kind of before my time, but still the history was there. So it was great attending that funeral and just seeing the love that he had, not only for Bradenton, but also Manatee County. And his family is still here generationally, and a huge family. So that was fun to see from that standpoint, the celebration of his life. Housing Authority, we're working every day through City Park, through the community center that's over there with Rogers Gardens. The Housing Authority is doing a great job. They will have, hopefully sometime in the next couple of months, they'll have a new executive director. They've got, I think, 5 people they're going to interview, if I'm not mistaken, which will be coming up soon. We will have a new Housing Authority board member that I'll be bringing forward on our September 10th meeting that will fill the board. That is really some people, I just think we have a great board now that's going to push that forward. They've also took the next process of remodeling the Suggs apartments, which are basically the 1960s and 70s barracks, flat roofs and all of that. And I believe it's mid 150s that residents they have now, which it'll go up to about 300 over the next several years, but bring them into apartment living that'll be more conducive to the times. So that board's doing a great job. Looking forward to their selection on the new executive director that will really move them forward into that next. The city will be asked soon at the right time to participate in that, which we're asked to participate in all of it in good faith, because when we participate at a very small amount comparative to the $80 million project's going to be there, but that'll be coming forward at the right time. So that's a really exciting project, as well as Braden Village and all the others that's going on. So I think Councilwoman Coachman does a great job in keeping that moving forward. As Councilwoman Coker said, you know, things come down to it, and you know, some of the things, the decisions we have to make are from the four corners of the city. And I did talk with a few people about some of the paint and sidewalk art that meant a lot to a lot of people. And even one of the comments was that somebody that painted that has passed away and it can't be duplicated. Unfortunately, you know, with some of the things we have to do, and it's happening all over the state. It's not just Bradenton. I saw that on the news this morning that the crosswalk in Daytona Beach by the Daytona Speedway with the black and white crosswalk, checkered flag, has been removed. So some of those things that we've got to process through, we've got to do it. It did not matter if we did it or not. The state was going to come in and remove them at great penalty to us, as well as cost to us that we would have had to pay the state to do it. So I thought the best method, and they gave us till September 4th, was to continue the path forward while working, and I've been talking to some of their board members over there, and they're going to have an arts festival in March. I think they were talking about it. But I'm going to ask, and I've talked with our CRA director, if there's some way that our CRA can come up with some way to partner with them for that arts festival that will then maybe be able to, as a non-CRA board member, I could say it, but we're in a public meeting. I don't know if there's, I see Jeff looking at Scott, but the way that they may be able to do some grants, because they can put the art on their driveways. It just, even before the art was put where it is now, it wasn't legal to put it on driveways and roadways. Some of the things I think just got let go, but this isn't, and it's not the state of Florida. It is nationwide this is happening. So we got called a couple days before last Thursday, directed that it's going to be coming down. Didn't realize it was going to be so quick for September 4th. So I'll take the heat for not getting the information out as quicker than we could have. But, you know, we had to get it going to get it done, so we did not lose federal and state funding. Our staff through this board has done a great job in the time that I've been mayor to get tens of millions of dollars of grant, state, and federal funding. Ms. Moore, the $3 million that we got for your project in your neighborhood was a jeopardy. You know, so I mean, I'm not willing to take that jeopardy for the four corners of our city, but I'm also willing to work with the Village of the Arts. And I would hope this, I said this to the two people yesterday I talked to, that when you talk to different fractions of the factors of the Village of the Arts, 25 against 25. Wait a minute, it shouldn't be 25 against 25. It should be 50 people working together with differences at times, but not fighting. You know, the Village of the Arts is like an HOA. If you ever served on an HOA, you'll never serve on it after you've done it one time, but you've got to figure out how to get them together. And if this somehow helps us rally the Village of the Arts, that we worked for years as a city to get their flooding, stormwater looked at and taken care of. Last year, during those three flooding storm, or excuse me, a rainstorm for a lot of months, a flooding storm, and a hurricane, and I drove it there 10 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the morning, and those streets were not flooding because that took a time. Now, other things are going to take time, and Village of the Arts is very important to us. But also, Village of the Arts has to be important to the collaborative effort of the whole group. And it's easy to say, well, let's just not pay attention to them. There are only 50 people. I want that Village of the Art to be 200 viable residents. And I know if Miss Barnaby was here right now, she'd kick me in my butt. But the slumlords in there have got to be run out. We've got to figure out how we turn those into viable businesses and working on it. But unfortunately, South Village is still not something, we could go through, you brought up code enforcement. I believe we could go through Village of the Arts and probably code enforcement 90% of the properties in there right now. And I'd like to ask Robin to come up while I'm on this and and again, I was looking forward to someone being here today, giving us their passion. I was surprised nobody showed up. So, and I have no problem in coming. But in the Village of the Arts sometimes thinks we don't care, but the stormwater system that we fixed, the lighting, the different things that we do, and there's some sidewalk issues. Yes, we're addressing those. But it's a slow process in government. But does the Village of the Arts have a little eclectic ability to do some things with businesses and other things that other areas of our town don't?
They absolutely do. Yeah, there is, in addition to changes that were made as a result of the form-based code, the Village of the Arts Overlay District preceded that. So they have a lot of business opportunities to create restaurants, create art studios, live-work situations, additional accessory dwelling units. So there's a lot of opportunities in the Village of the Arts that other neighborhoods don't necessarily have.
Right, and that's why I wanted you to mention that, because there's a lot of things, if we didn't want the village to be successful, there might be a lot of easier ways to do it. But for us, we want it to be successful. It's not that when somebody tells you when you're running for an election, well, don't answer any of their questions because you're going to make 25 people mad and the other 25, will like you. So, but if you answer questions, you might make all 50 mad. And I'm being a little bit, tongue-in-cheek on that because it is important. And you saw what we ran through last year with our staff before the FEMA haulers ever got in here, DRC or Siri got in here. We helped that village to be open. And when somebody tells me on the phone yesterday, well, I voted for you, but I won't vote for you again, I'm not doing this job for a vote. I'm doing it to make the four corners of our city better. And that's important to me. And that's how we're going to continue that as I lead to go forward. You know, is there ways we can work through things? Yes. Is there ways we can help people? We're going to try. But you also got to help yourself. And it comes up, government can't do everything for everybody, but we can work the process and do the government part of things that we can, and then also be accountable. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you answer that because I got more, but go ahead if you have a question to that.
It was just it was a follow-up to that, which is, I totally agree that we have to follow the law and that there's process. My caveat is that, I think that we have to be careful, if we are, if we have home rule preservation concerns. I think I do a little bit. Whether or not they were, it was legal for them to have the art where it was, it's just notable to me that in this very particular instance, it's an art community. And we as a community decided that it should be an art community. And so I'm not trying to tell anybody what kind of art or where to put it, but it's just those kind of boots on the ground thing that the higher levels of government just don't know. And so I just want to make sure that we retain our voice in that, because we are the ones that are dealing with the phone calls, seeing the people at the grocery store. I just want to make sure that we're cognizant that we also have to be stewards of what we know to be true, because we're the ones that actually live here, not that higher level.
And I don't disagree with you, and that's why I returned the phone calls, and, they would talk to you and ask you stuff, and but we also, as a community, you got to be responsible for yourself and your residents. Others have to be responsible for themselves and their residents. And some of the things that, as you bring up code enforcement, don't meet even code enforcement with the different rules and regulations of overlay district. So sometimes be careful what you wish for when you say, I want this done. And I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general. Right. But I just think it's very important for them to understand we've got to look at it as a body, as the whole. And I'll bring this up because it's been something that's been on my mind. We last meeting approved a high coastal hazard area, which benefits over 4,000 residents in the city of Bradenton. So then we made a vote on approving a project that's going to benefit the whole city. So when we start to approve other projects that are going to benefit the whole city, we got to make sure that we're addressing things fairly, and hopefully that we all see that some votes are tough, but sometimes you got to do it for the good of the whole. And the Westminster thing, when I found out Westminster 4 years ago, I was not in favor of it. When I found out what they could do, and when they processed it and what we could, as Mr. Perry said on this property, we owned it, we can tell them what to build basically and do. But we've got to make sure that when we make votes and do things, that we're looking at the picture of the whole, not of one thing when we just approve over 4,000 residents. Because I think that can be where people can actually say negative towards you when you don't have those votes and the different things. So, sometimes these things are hard to decide on, but nobody's trying to hurt anybody. And I've read every comment so far before this meeting started. I'm sure there's more, but it is empathetic and sad that somebody that might not be alive painted something like that. But unfortunately, we are talking about your toilets flushing and the systems working properly and not polluting the river. We are talking about things that if we lose, we can't make up. We can't do it. So it comes to a point where you got to look at the whole, and I'm willing to talk to anybody. You guys know that. I'll go out. I was out there yesterday and didn't see many people at the time, but if they would have been there, I would have stopped and talked to them. But I did call the two that called me, or one emailed and one called, and a good friend put another thing. I'm going to call her after this meeting and tell her, yes, it sucks. Point blank, it sucks. But when you've got to do things for the good of the whole, to save all of the other processes, we lose the tens of millions of dollars opportunity to lose it for our wastewater system in your neighborhood, in particular, could be one of them that could be pulled back. We lose we're asking for right now hundreds of millions of dollars in grants and funding. I'm not willing to jeopardize that at this moment. And I will stand up for certain parts of home rule And some parts, I think that we can work together with who we're working with and still get what we want. So I think that's all I got. Any department heads have anything else? Hearing none, Mr. Kramer, Chief Kramer?
Thank you. We've had some good and bad this week, obviously. I'll end with the bad. But some of the good, Monday we got to enjoy lunch with the law down at Mission Barbecue. Thank you to the mayor and Councilwoman Coker for coming. Thank you to Mission Barbecue. Marcus Jenkins is the GM down there. Their mission is to basically support first responders and the military, and we appreciate everything they do. But a big thank you to Frank Bruner and the Board of Crime Stoppers, who really are the ones who wanted me to come down and be able to talk with the public. And I got some basically elevator pitches from some people in a quick little meetings, and some are going to be interesting conversations to follow, some are not, but that's how it goes. But a big thank you to them. Thursday, tomorrow, 2 o'clock at the Chip Shore courtroom is our promotion ceremony where 11 people will be promoted. Only 10 will be there. Sergeant Amy Schwartz is out of town visiting her mom and couldn't change that trip. So reception will be following at the Chamber of Commerce. You're all obviously invited. Part of that change is when we promote people, we got to move people around, and I'll be talking with Dr. J over there about someone who's going to be taking the spot in one of the CRA districts. So, and obviously I've notified everyone. Late Monday night, we had a homicide. 15-year-old Kayvon Dunbar was killed, and we're actively investigating. And when you all get notification from me, that's basically what you're going to get. Until I have more to give you, I can't give you any more. So I don't know how the predecessor did it, but I have a feeling it was pretty similar to that. And when I can give you more information, I will, but I have to protect the security of any investigation we have. So. All right.
All right, any other department heads? Mr. Perry?
No, sir, budget hearing tomorrow. Appreciate everybody's
8:30
attention to
a.m.
that. And just on the building front, Bradenton Fire Department Station 2 is coming along quite nicely. Keith, you want to make it?
So I wasn't sure if you want me to comment or not. So we're going to do the final punch list on September 9th. In a few weeks, you're going to see the scaffolding go back up on the east and west side, and you'll see the red stucco components start going up as the final touches are added. But we're down to the getting ready for the final inspections for CO over the next week. I got to thank Karen Lanke for helping us out with the elevator situation we had, communication issues, things like that. So not a lot of holdups anymore. Everything's coming together nicely, and we're back on track. So
We're going to have probably a ribbon cutting sometime the third week in October.
I think that was the plan, but I think you might be out of town.
That was the fourth week, the third week.
So
we've figured it out yet.
So we'll get back with you on that, and that kind of depends on the completion with that. I'll say modified stucco, and I just don't want to rush that and be have it too early. I guess I'll say that.
Stucco's not coming from Italy, is it?
Oh no.
I was just thinking, boy, that went better than 3.
No, but it would definitely tighten up we want to keep a little buffer in there, I'll say, and that would really make it tight. We'll see. I'll get back to you.
We can do it after you. All right. Terrible. All right. Anything else? We'll be adjourned. Thank you.
Wow. It's by a tail.